You're listening to the TV Obsessive channel, presented by TVObscast.com. Okay, welcome back to the TV Obsessive podcast. Here today for episode 98. As always, my name is Cameron Crane, executive editor for TVObsessive.com. I'm joined by Ryan Kirksey, writer and contributor for the site. How you doing today, Ryan?
Really great today. We're up against the Easter weekend, long weekend, perfect time to catch up on what just seems like a deluge of new stuff coming at us. Finales, premieres, a lot of things happening over the next week or so.
Yeah, and our regular scheduled programming. Um, we're gonna talk more about Black Mirror today, which came out last week. I'm sure there are people who still haven't watched all the episodes. I got through them last weekend. So hopefully people are with us here, kind of taking them week to week. We're gonna talk about two today, Bete Noire and Hotel Reverie, for reasons, scheduling reasons, but also might as well, kind of get them out there. It's April 17th. As you say, we're on the cusp of Easter weekend. We've got the return of the rehearsal on Easter, which, all right, you know, I
That
don't
is
know. I don't know if
some
that's
timing.
fitting. I was thinking about it because I was rewatching the first season of the rehearsal, and some of the stuff that happens in there. I don't know if you recall. You saw it. You watched the
Yep,
rehearsal, right? Yeah.
yep,
I don't know if you recall some of the stuff in there about Judaism and
yes.
all of that. Like some of those things, if they'd been on Easter, would have been a little bit, I don't know, more ironic or whatever the word is. But no, season two premieres. I'm writing on it week to week again. I did get screeners. I have seen the first episode. I won't say a ton about it, but I wouldn't really say that there's anything in there that really felt to me like, oh, this is going to be on Easter.
Okay.
It's just I did
Just
feel like, do you remember that the finale of Barry was like on Memorial Day or something?
yes,
Like
yes.
a Memorial Day weekend. So it's not, nothing felt like that, but
So do I have this right then? So okay, so rehearsal is on HBO.
yeah,
So Sunday night HBO is going to be
yes,
Last of Us, Gemstones, and rehearsal for a period of time.
yes. For
Wow.
the next,
Okay.
I think there are three more episodes of The Righteous Gemstones. So yeah, for the next at least 3 weeks, it'll be The Last of Us, then The Righteous Gemstones, and then the rehearsal. And then I'm not sure what they're going to put, how they're going to, I mean, maybe they'll just push up the rehearsal after the Righteous Gemstones ends. I haven't checked on that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a decent block of television to watch on Sunday nights if you're into that sort of thing. I'm not sure about the flow.
Yeah. Yeah. Going from a emotional dystopia to South Carolina crude preachers to whatever it is that Nathan Fielder is going to be doing. We'll see how he bookends all of that. But yeah, quite the diversity if you're looking for that in your television on Sunday nights.
Yeah. If you've seen the trailer for season two of the rehearsal, you do have some idea of what's going to
Yes.
happen, right? So, but I won't spoil it. And if people wanted to avoid the trailer, I won't say anything else about it. You mentioned The Last of Us, which of course you're writing on each week, premiered this past week. Anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, no, I found this premiere to be you sort of think about it in two parts. Think about it in terms of just the story of this television show, and think about it in terms of those that are familiar with the game. I am going through the game, but we'll sort of save those thoughts. That's more sort of spoiler territory. But in terms of I guess the arc of the show, it's an interesting sort of leap forward in time. I think that they've really set up some characters to be in some interesting positions over the course of the next, I think, six more episodes. Set up some pretty precarious things for the world that they live in. So I was very pleased with the first episode. Found myself wishing, I think that there were nine episodes in season one. We're only getting seven in season two.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to get to the end of seven and wish, man, I wish there's some more here. But that's for reasons of splitting the game in between two seasons. We've learned.
Yeah. I'm working on catching up. I should have started working on catching up sooner. I found myself on Sunday saying like, "Oh, I'll try to catch up on The Last of Us," but that meant
Yeah.
I was trying to watch 6 episodes. And no, I did not get through 6.
Yeah.
So I got through like four, and I'll probably catch up by this Sunday. And it's weird because like I know what happens, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Um, but I am kind of curious to see how they do this adaptation of the second game from what I know about the game and all of that. And it does seem like, I mean, one of the things we put in our news items is like a lot of people are watching the show, and it feels like it, going on Blue Sky and stuff like that. And so I have kind of come around to feeling like, all right, well, this time I want to be
Yeah.
part of the conversation.
Yeah. I think there was, especially from people who maybe were not familiar with the game. I mean, you might just assume, okay, well, this is just the 2023 and 2025 version of The Walking Dead, and it's really not that. There is quite the story inside of this zombie apocalypse world that they live in. That's, I think I saw that. I think there's only 3 episodes in the first season where you actually see or they battle some of these things. I mean, that's not the focus of this show. And so it's become more of this just prestige drama inside of it that people have really latched on to. And yeah, this piece that we'll link to says there were a significant number more people that tuned into this premiere than did the season one premiere. So they had a lot of people catch up on and really fall in love with season one before last Sunday.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another thing that premiered this week is a new season of Doctor Who, which I checked out. Real mixed feelings. I feel like every time I brought it up since in this new, Russell T Davies Part Two weird reboot thing where
Yeah.
we're calling this season two now. It's just confusing, and I wish they hadn't done that at all. They're pretending like, oh, well, we started over. We started over, but of course we didn't, because there's continuity with the past, and like we totally started over by bringing back David Tennant. It's weird. It's weird. Um, but David Tennant's not in this. I don't know. I had mixed feelings. I found myself like halfway through the premiere thinking that it was very bad.
Hmm.
But then it was one of those experiences where by the end of the episode, I find myself thinking, well, that was pretty good. I mean, it's like I got intrigued by the time that we got to the end. You know what I mean? Whereas at the beginning, I was kind of like, I don't know about this story.
Yeah. Yeah.
The story of the week, I wasn't finding very compelling. And then as it kind of ended and set up the season, I got a bit more intrigued. So
Hmm.
we'll see how it goes. I am looking forward to seeing, Alan Cumming's supposed to show up and things like that. So I probably will keep
Okay.
watching it.
Well, maybe also just another quick plug for, I know you have a piece up on the finale of Yellow Jackets. I have a piece up on the finale of Daredevil. Those have both happened last week, so those are on the site if anyone wants to check it out.
Yeah, yeah. We could talk about Daredevil. Well, I guess we don't have to. As we said, we were saying DMs. I was a little bit surprised at just how violent that finale was. Because I remember when we talked about it after the season premiere, that was one of the things where, oh, this doesn't seem quite as dark, it doesn't seem quite as
Yeah.
violent as a Netflix show. And I know there's behind the scenes production details and different creative teams and all that stuff. And that's part of why. But man, by the time we got to the finale, it was really like, oh, this is this is on Disney.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Once this guy, Dario Scartapane, who was the showrunner for the Punisher show, took over as the showrunner for Daredevil, he got creative control and built in these last few episodes. It was basically all right, we're gonna make up for some lost time here and and add some pretty bloody and violent moments for what we missed in the first few. So yeah, be prepared for that if you go check it out.
yeah. I enjoyed it though. I enjoyed it. Let's see. We also got some other news items here. Nothing too, I don't know. We've been hitting on the Dexter beat, so we've got
Yeah.
some first look images for Dexter Resurrection. Um, People want to check that out, we'll put a link in the show notes article that we post and so on. Not a ton to say about that. Part of why I was looking at the article was to see if they would give us a release date. And
Hmm.
no, it's still just like probably this summer. I've heard
Yeah.
rumors of June, but they haven't even confirmed a month yet, I don't believe.
Yeah, a lot of photos in this. I think it's sort of a first look piece. A lot of photos of some of the guest stars that are coming this this season. I did note in the first two paragraphs, I think it's 5 different Dexter shows that are mentioned. We've talking about just sort of the proliferation of all things Dexter, but yeah, no concrete details on anything about release from what I saw.
No, it just says probably this summer, which I'd
Yeah.
heard before. So, but you got pictures of Peter Dinklage in there, pictures of Uma Thurman, and all right. I mean, we're really not sure what exactly the plot's going to be here. Um, if Dexter's going to be, I don't even know where it's set. Actually,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Oh, no spoilers.
No.
Yeah, I won't spoil Dexter New Blood, even if they kind of do a little bit in the title of Dexter Resurrection.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's coming down the line sooner. We've got Poker Face season 2. They released a trailer. This is coming,
Yeah.
I think, May 8th, so pretty soon. Thoughts
Very.
on
I mean,
that one?
speaking of guest stars, I found this trailer to be very very entertaining. There is a or almost 2.5 minute trailer for the second season that's been released. I want to say almost a minute of it is them just running through the numerous guest stars they're going to have throughout the season. I mean, about every person you can think of. There's a paragraph here with at least 30 names in it. So I found myself watching the trailer and thinking, "Oh yeah, I really loved that show, and I'm excited about it coming back. So excited about Natasha Lyonne and this character coming back to Peacock, I believe. And yeah, this is just a fun spin on Mystery of the Week, and I love it.
Yeah, and that's always been part of the hook, I thought too, where it's like, as you say, kind of the case of the week sort of
Mhm.
thing, but oh wow, it's that actor,
Yeah.
like so yeah, that's cool. Looking forward to that one. We're gonna get another Abbott Elementary It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia crossover from the other direction, which intrigues me because I don't see any issue with any fan of It's Always Sunny watching Abbott Elementary, but I could see an issue with fans of Abbott Elementary watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So I'm a little
Yeah.
intrigued about how this goes.
Yeah, the little teaser for this. Again, having maybe watched 5 episodes of Sunny in my life, I know a little bit about what you're talking about. But this is so this summer we'll see the Abbott Elementary crew somehow make their way into the Sunny universe, and we saw, I guess it was the Always Sunny group volunteer at Abbott Elementary. I don't know that we know much about why the teachers and administration are going to
They're going to come to Patty's
South
Pub.
Philly, but
Yeah,
because we can speculate.
not sure. I'm not sure what the connection would be there. I mean, I would hazard to guess that as far as It's Always Sunny episodes go, this one might be on the tame side. It's
Hmm.
probably not going to center around them getting addicted to crack or anything like that. Um, it's a real episode. Um, but yeah, so curious about that. And then I guess there's a little bit of a segue here to Mythic Quest being canceled, which I have not watched. I've heard good things about Mythic Quest. You ever check this one out?
I've never seen this, and if you had told me that it was canceled, I would have been convinced that it was canceled after one season. I had absolutely no idea that there were 4 seasons of this out there.
Yeah, it kind of flew under the radar a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's one of those where season one must have come out in like 2019 or
Mm,
something, and so then, production delays and then maybe like pumped out a couple seasons over the past couple years.
yeah.
Um, Never got around to checking it out. I mean, it always looked to me like it would be probably pretty funny and pretty entertaining. But anyway, well, part of what I think is interesting about this news is so the season just ended a few weeks ago, and then they decided to cancel it. But they're also saying, "Oh, we're going to update the finale." I'm not sure if they've done that quite yet,
Yeah.
but
So at some point, if you've seen it already, you'll be able to go into Apple TV Plus and you'll find that episode with some entirely new ending.
yeah, and I don't think that's happened yet because I imagine they'll put out a press release or something when
Yeah.
it's available.
Yeah.
That I would have seen as I was going through the news, the trades or whatever. Um, I cannot recall anything like this. I mean, I have an example, there's something in my experience or our experience that gets sort of close, but can you recall anything else where they actually did this?
I cannot recall anything that has happened after the fact. I
Yeah.
think there have been things reworked as seasons went along and they found out they weren't going to be renewed. But to go back, and I guess this is what you can do in the age of streaming, to go back after the fact and readjust an entire ending to a series. I can't think of a prior example of this.
Yeah, the thing I was thinking of, if you didn't think about this, was Winning Time. But that was kind of just for us because we had screeners,
Oh,
right?
yes. Okay. No,
Um,
that's true. That was a screener issue.
yeah, and it was that they on the first version of the screener, it ended, and then the show got canceled, and then they put on that closing montage. But
That's
that
right.
was all
That's
that was
right.
before it aired to the public that they made that adjustment.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly right. Yeah, this is, I don't know oh, it says March 26th is when this ended. And now since March 26th, an announcement that they're going to change the ending. Okay.
I guess I imagine something similar to what happened with Winning Time.
Yeah.
They're like that they've got a closing montage in the bag that they're going to tag on or something. I mean,
Yeah, right.
whatever it is, I'm presuming it's something they already filmed, like they already thought that this was some possibility, but then they didn't find out until after it aired.
Yeah.
Um, just kind of odd. I'd be curious to see how fans of Mythic Quest react to whatever they're up to there. Um, Something we talked about. I just wanted to follow up on this, I guess, because we talked about the Citadel. Sorry, there's no the. We talked about Citadel being put on hold, and we were, kind of saying it's so over. Um, Kinda. I mean, I don't, so I wouldn't, say we're so back, but apparently apparently they are going to make season two, but they're canceling the planned spin-offs and they're going to like fold the spin-offs into season two. Um, I don't know how promising I think that sounds, but at least
Yeah.
fans of Citadel are going to get a season two and they're going to fold in Honey Bunny and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I thought to
If you were
follow up on
looking
that.
forward to Citadel Honey Bunny, you'll have to find it somewhere within the realm of the of Citadel Prime, I guess, when the show comes out. Yeah, there are two versions of this. They're just, as you said, going to fold in. I mean, I imagine this must have been a situation where, well, we signed contract with these folks. We have to do something with them, so let's put them in the season.
Yeah, I really don't know because I've been looking at the news on this. It seems like they were whoever they is, muckety muck executives or
Yeah.
whatever, weren't terribly happy with how season two was
Yeah.
coming along or with how it was, like in terms of content or something. And that was part of why they were putting it on hold. And now
Yeah.
they're saying, okay, well, we are going to do it and like give you a chance to wrap up the story, I guess. And then, hey, we'll
Right.
wrap up these other stories too. I mean, it sounds like this really has the potential to just be a mess.
Yeah. I mean, this was a mess before they decided to pause, quote unquote, these spin-offs. So how they incorporate that and make something coherent, you know, maybe we'll never know. I'm not sure I'll ever catch up on this, but they're stuck in a hard place with this, especially with how much money
Yeah.
they've spent on it.
I mean, I do find it a little bit unfortunate. I was looking back at the article I wrote when Citadel premiered, and
Mm.
one thing I read through it again, and I kind of made myself chuckle with a couple of my lines. But one thing that stood out to me was at the end, I said something like, maybe this could get good if it has a chance to sprawl.
Mm.
And it definitely has not.
Not
And
getting this brawl.
definitely no sprawl because that's the thing. Like the first season was only like 6 episodes, right? And it was weird because it is setting itself up as this huge, expansive international spy mystery, and
Yeah,
we got 6 episodes. You know what I mean? And
exactly.
so I recall thinking at the time that it was given the opportunity to become like Alias with
Mm.
100 episodes or whatever that maybe it could like flesh out in ways that would get more compelling, but nope, not happening. um let's see what else do we have here.
Last thing we have is we have official announcements of some of the um, some might say highly anticipated, some might say highly controversial HBO Harry Potter TV series that is going to adapt each of the seven books into one season. We have John Lithgow, we have Janet McTeer, we have Nick Frost, we have Papa Asedu, a couple of theater actors playing some of the quintessential Harry Potter characters. They have come out and said, no, we're not casting the children yet. We're doing that closer to the time so they could be, as close to the age as possible as we need them to be. But some really interesting names. I'm looking forward to Nick Frost as Hagrid,
Yeah.
especially. And then, as you can imagine, the character Snape, who was once played by Alec Rickman in the movies, a whole bunch of controversy over who was casted for him. So, this will be under scrutiny for until it's over 10 or 12 years from now.
Yeah. I just wish that J.K. Rowling wasn't, you know, like why did she have to decide to devote herself to being like one of the worst people in the world? And because it complicates things, and a lot of people have a lot of complicated feelings at this point about. I mean, I've been seeing stuff since this news came out over the past couple of days. People are saying like, I don't know, how do I feel about introducing my kids to Harry Potter and all of that? And it's like, if she just been quiet and be like enjoy her money or whatever, everything would be fine. Instead of like deciding to post a picture of herself smoking a cigar because of the UK Supreme Court decision or whatever. I think she did it.
I saw this, and
It's
yeah,
just
there was a very interesting comment on that social media post that she put out, exactly to your point, which was somebody saying, "With your infinite wealth, you could have enjoyed an infinite number of things and gone off and done it. This is what you chose to do, put yourself in this controversy." Yeah, but I mean, it has not prevented things like this from being made and
well, yeah, yeah.
Potter to
Mhm.
proliferate around the world. So I mean, it's just it's inescapable at this point.
Yeah, it definitely gives me mixed feelings about it. I was never a huge Harry Potter fan, so it's one of those things where if it weren't for all of that stuff around Rowling, I'd probably be sitting here going, "Oh, okay," you
Yeah,
know. But with it, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that I'm going to watch it. I don't know
yeah,
if it's like a political stand to not watch it. I don't know. It's just I wish all that stuff wasn't there about it, basically.
exactly, exactly.
Um, all right, so we're going to talk about Black Mirror, continuing through season 7. Hopefully, you joined us last week. We talked about common people. You can go back and listen to that if you haven't already. This week, we're going to hit on two episodes: Bete Noire, which is the second one in the order on Netflix, and then Hotel Reverie, which is the third one. We'll more or less split those up, right? So we'll talk about Bete Noire and then pause again before Hotel Reverie. So at this point, it's a spoiler warning for Bete Noire, and we'll be back with you in about 10 seconds.
Okay, let's dive into Black Mirror season 7. First of all, looking at Bete Noire, written by Charlie Brooker, directed by Toby Haynes. In this episode, Maria is a food scientist at a chocolate company, and one day at work sees an old schoolmate named Verity Green, who is part of a tasting focus group. Verity tells everyone she's looking for a job at that company in R&D, and she's then hired very soon after. Maria begins experiencing some unexplainable differences in her work, her personal life. These inconsistencies increase and begin to impact her life in very strange ways. When mistakes that Maria makes eventually cause her to lose her job, she begins to suspect Verity is the one causing all of it because of the way Maria treated her back when they were in school together. After being fired, Maria breaks into Verity's home and discovers she's created a quantum computer that can reshape reality however Verity wants. She's been using it on those that have used to bully her. Maria is able to kill Verity. She takes control of the computer and changes her reality to be the Empress of the universe.
Hooray.
Quite a final last little shot there of that episode. You, I know, have some strong thoughts on this episode. This is one that I would say was entertaining, but I don't know how much sort of a Black Mirror world it falls into. So you want to kick us off on what you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, my initial reaction was that it was one of these episodes of Black Mirror that I sort of hate,
Hmm.
but that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. I was making comparisons to people up to like Nosedive, which is an episode I find to be just incredibly frustrating. Like I want to reach through my screen and throttle people, you know? So I was having something of that experience. But then when it comes down to it, I'm really not sure that Bete Noire is even, as interesting as Nosedive, because I can think about Nosedive and say, oh, well, I don't enjoy watching that episode, but it's interesting. There are things to think about. I'm almost too on board with its point to where
Hmm.
like I don't need it. Right. You
Yeah.
remember that's the one where like every social interaction is rated like it's an Uber driver.
Yeah.
And with this one, I mean, maybe it is similar to the extent that I don't know what's the tagline? Bullying is bad.
Yeah. So I was having this conversation with a friend of mine who's been watching them as well, and we were talking about this similar idea that one of the appeals of Black Mirror are these often dark, ominous, ambiguous endings that make you think about, so, okay, what did I just see? What was right? What was wrong? How does it impact me? How do I feel about this? This one doesn't really seem to have that. I mean, it has a very odd ending, first of all, this idea of Maria just sort of shows up as the Empress of the universe and thousands of people bowing down to her. It just sort of takes you out of where you were for the first hour of this episode. But then, yeah, just what's the message that we're trying to say here? We all can agree that bullying is bad. We all can agree that, um, yeah, the idea of spreading misinformation and disinformation in this world is something that happens. But wasn't really sure what I took from it beyond that.
Yeah, and the tech involves. I had an issue with this a little bit too that I'll throw out um, into our conversation now, I guess. I mean, the tech involved seems a little too close to magic,
Mm.
you know, and maybe also I'm a little worn out on the multiverse Mandela effect kind of stuff at this point, and it's
Yeah.
playing with that. Um, the
Yeah,
biggest thing,
I like your point
but
about magic, where you just I mean didn't mention the pendant, but just, you can put your finger on it, talk into it, and whatever you say appears. I don't think quantum computing works that way. I don't think that's how multiple realities exist, or how we can. But I really couldn't speak intelligently about that. But yeah, it does seem more like wizardry or magic than it does dark technology and the impacts of it.
yeah, I mean, to my understanding, quantum computing doesn't really exist, although maybe there have been breakthroughs recently to where it kind of, sort of, maybe almost does. It's one of those things out there where um, there are, I mean, there is a real weirdness,
Yeah,
because potentially the quantum computer will function on the basis of that quantum strangeness,
yeah,
the entanglement, quantum entanglement, and stuff like this, but to my knowledge of it, which is clearly not like expert level here, the big thing is that quantum computing has the potential to be incredibly fast,
yes, yes,
right?
yes,
I mean, it has the potential for a processing time that's like getting close to zero, you know.
hmm
Um, I think it's my understanding. So like, could you think about some possibility that through a breakthrough in quantum computing, something like this could maybe theoretically be possible, I guess, but we're just kind of jumping to that, and the way it
yeah,
functions
yeah,
is more like magic, right?
yes, yes,
um where, I mean, I did want to point out in terms of how you put it, I guess it does seem to me like it's, but she has to push the button and she asserts that something is reality, and then it becomes reality.
yeah. The pendant is some kind of transmitter or receiver connected to the computer. She can, through her fingerprint, she can then open up the line to speak to it, and the computer processes and then does whatever, which so much of what happens to Marie in this episode is tied into other pieces of technology, the email episode, the security footage episode. It's almost like then that quantum computer would have to be tied into all the other technology around it and have that kind of power, which, again, no idea how that would work or not work, but that's
It,
how
it,
she
it's
makes things happen.
it seems like in the background is the idea of many worlds theory,
Hmm.
where every possible world exists. So through her little pendant, she's shifting everyone to the world where, for example, no one knows what a nut allergy is.
Yes.
But then they have the wrinkle that, well, Maria, it doesn't get shifted to that reality somehow, kind of, sort of,
Yeah.
and so I don't know that it even really holds up in terms of like how you would think that through, even if you're going to make reference to quantum mechanics and many worlds theory and all of that kind of thing. Well, then how do you explain that Maria is the only one who is, as it were, stuck in the old
Stuck in
reality?
it. And I had this same thought, so I'm glad we're bringing this up. So if you're talking about multiverses or many worlds or whatever you want to call it, in what world or what universe would there be a path where Maria would go drink the almond milk? There are none because she has a nut allergy. So you're just conjuring up worlds at that point because she would never go do that in a normal circumstance.
Well, I mean, I guess it would have to be one of the worlds where she doesn't have a nut
Doesn't
allergy.
have one at that, so it just sort of switches instantly, or it switched long before, but she's not aware of that. I guess that's
But
that's the other thing.
I think you're right to say this immediately after what I just said,
Yeah,
because it's like, okay, well, is the version of Maria changing from one to another between these realities? No, but then in here, I'm led to say it has to be yes,
yeah,
because otherwise she would never drink the almond milk. So yeah, I don't really know that it holds up, and so okay, it's not interesting to me at that level. The one thing that ultimately I did find interesting to think about, and the one thing that made me feel like this does fit as Black Mirror, is that ultimately Verity says, "Oh, well, yeah, of course, when I created this technology, the first thing I did was like explore every way I could make my life as good as possible." Right? Like this Empress of the Universe thing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's what it stands in for, though, right?
yeah, exactly.
But ultimately, she found that unsatisfying,
Right.
right? So there's this suggestion that like the kind of pinnacle of satisfaction potentially lies in taking revenge and enjoying the suffering of your enemies, right?
Yeah.
And that's very Black Mirror.
And that is very Black Mirror. It was just such a short line at the very, very end of this episode. It's like if that would have been a great idea to explore from the beginning. I like to
Yeah.
sort of lay the seeds of that when they talk about how she was treated and who said what and who
Oh
started the
yeah.
rumor and all that, but it doesn't it doesn't go down the path of, well, I am doing this because I was miserable and I have found nothing that can get me out of that misery more than doing this to you.
Oh yeah, no, so I like this idea for an episode better, right?
Yeah.
You follow Verity, and maybe we start with her being bullied a bit in high school or whatever. We
Hmm.
follow her, she becomes successful, she figures out this technology, she explores all of the ways in which she can deploy it to like bring herself enjoyment, success, fame, glory,
Yep.
whatever, is dissatisfied with that, and then turns to, going to mess with her old bullies, because she finds that to be, more satisfying, and it's like
Yeah.
Schadenfreude's The Meaning of Life, roll credits.
Yeah.
And you can have some parts the same, but I don't know. That was the thing I thought the most interesting. Do you want to talk at all about this article you put a link into with some comments from the actors?
Yeah, just found it interesting. You can look at, I mean, clearly these actors get interviewed and they get asked their thoughts on these episodes and what their impressions were of what they did and their thoughts on the meaning of each episode. And just found that for this one, I believe it was McEwen, who plays Maria. I think I have that right. Her last name is McEwen. Rosie McEwen. She just gave an interview with Cosmopolitan where she said it's meant to be fun and silly. It's a romp, especially in a show where the themes can feel daunting. Um, okay, so this is just supposed to be like a jovial moment here, right at the beginning of the season. I don't really necessarily think that that's what Brooker and company were going for or want to go for with Black Mirror. So I just don't think she sort of drew out a lot of themes from it as she sort of got to the end of making this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I find it interesting that there's this implication that we're potentially supposed to be finding this humorous,
Mm,
which I could see that maybe, but it didn't land that way for me at all.
no.
Right. So if it had been done slightly differently, maybe, I guess, I could see that. But it's weird because the episode largely puts us on Maria's side, I think.
Yes,
So
yes.
as
And
she's being messed with, it's
you could certainly make an episode of this where there are humorous things that happen to Maria as a result of this, or silly things that happen to her. But no, it's all sort of centered around the idea of paranoia and hearing about the friend that took her life because of similar things happening. And so I didn't find this really fun or silly at all.
yeah, I definitely didn't find it fun. I really didn't enjoy watching it very much at all. So for me, it's the worst episode of season seven, but I'm still hesitating to say that it is bad per se, but I definitely enjoyed it the least and kind of found it the least interesting, I guess.
If it's at the bottom of what is overall a very good season,
Yeah.
I guess we're not comparing it, say, to season six. It's still overall sort of fits into a very good season.
Yeah, that would be tougher for me. I don't have Black Mirror episode rankings.
Yeah,
I know some people do this and some
yeah.
publications have put them out and so on and so forth. And I could theoretically do it, but it's always seemed to me like the kind of show where no one let me put that another way. I think everyone is going to agree that some Black Mirror episodes are better than others,
Hmm.
but then we're not going to agree which ones are which.
Yeah,
So,
that's
and I
right.
find that more interesting. So, like, why would I want to assert my
Yeah.
rankings on the world, as it were? But just off the top of my head, I did think season seven overall was better than season six.
Yes.
And so, whether is Bete Noire better than every episode of season six in my mind, maybe except for Jonas Awful,
Okay. Okay.
is where I would land off the top of my head. But who cares? Um, I meant to mention earlier, I guess, of course, bête noire means like a person or thing you find particularly annoying. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
you know, there's a way in which I do feel like the episode is aptly named and at a couple of levels. And yeah, I mean, again, like if there was meant to be humor here, that's another way in which it could have been better, is if it had been infused with a little bit more humor, but I
Yeah.
didn't feel that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about this one?
No, I think I'd like to move on and talk about Hotel Reverie if you're ready.
Yeah, I am. So, all right, now we're going to talk about Hotel Reverie. So I'll give you another spoiler warning. Instead of our usual flow, might have another little music break I put in here to the normal podcast. We're going to talk about Hotel Reverie, so spoilers on the table for that. And yeah, I guess I am saying I'll put in the music again. So I'll pick up on the other side of that, and we'll talk about Hotel Reverie.
Okay, moving on to Hotel Reverie, written by Charlie Brooker and directed by Halu Wong. In Hotel Reverie, a company called Redream decides to remake classic movies, including one called Hotel Reverie with modern actress Brandy Friday. This will be done by an AI technique that puts her consciousness inside the movie with all the other original actors. Brandy stars alongside Dorothy Chambers in the lead role, and they fall in love while making the movie. When the technology using they're using to make the movie breaks. Brandy and Dorothy are stuck inside the world of Hotel Reverie where everyone else is frozen around them. Dorothy begins to understand who she really is. But after she and Brandy spend many days together, the movie resets back to a point in time, and Dorothy does not remember the time spent with Brandy. Brandy and Dorothy improvise a new ending to the movie where Dorothy dies, leaving Brandy heartbroken. After Brandy wakes up, the movie is released. It is made. It is a success. Redream sends Brandy an AI simulation where she can talk to Dorothy on the phone at any time. Thought the premise of this was quite fascinating. You know, putting a modern actress instead of just rebooting a film, putting a modern actor or actress inside of a movie. We have some
Yeah.
consistency sort of in the tech that we've seen in some other episodes of the show, is sort of how they do this and these sort of template modules that they put on themselves. But yeah, this is just I think a really interesting look at um, not just what was the reality of the world that Dorothy was living in, but what we do with content these days, if for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I really like this one a lot. It's a love story, right?
Yes.
And I liked how there's the old movie feel to it, and but the insertion of Issa Rae's character, Brandy, right? Um, Almost in particular, I don't know. I've talked to a couple of people who seem to feel like that didn't work for them. Right, like a couple of people have said things to me like that almost ruined it. But I mean, it did work for me. Any thoughts on that? Because there is kind of like there's a weird kind of difference in tone that
Okay.
they're
Yes.
playing with, I think, between the old timey movie, but then even how she acts in the movie. Any
Yes.
thoughts on that?
I was going to make this exact point. I'm glad you brought it up, which is it was a little bit of a moment for me to get beyond the okay, Brandy speaks and acts and tonally is very much a 2025 version of someone we would realize today. Whereas you go into this movie with Dorothy Chambers, who is probably intentionally speaking with a British accent, speaking in a very sophisticated way, using language we might not necessarily use today. And so just sort of the dichotomy of those two people bumping up against each other, it's sort of like, oh, this is a little bit awkward and clunky, but then you sort of start to realize that, oh, this is just one thing where they're able to overcome and build this thing on top of it. So I understand that point, but I think it was more a feature than a bug.
I agree. Yeah. And there are terms for this that I could have looked up and made a note of that I didn't. But yeah, I mean, like the old timey movie, it's in the old style, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
And there is that shift in acting, right?
Yes,
Between
yes.
that, I mean, like you watch Casablanca or something like that, if we use that as the example, don't make the mistake of thinking like normal people in the 1950s talk that way. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of overblown kind of melodramatic
Yeah.
sort of acting style. Whereas what you're getting from the Brandy character, who's a well-known actor in the universe of the story and all of that, is that newer, more naturalistic style, like where
Yes, yes, yes.
um, and I mean, for me, I thought it worked. It creates some moments of humor, but then also I think feeds into the love story ultimately, which is the kind of the central thing that worked for me about the episode when it comes down to it.
Yeah, just sort of this in many ways, opposites attract type of thing, right? And they're both just completely opposite of one another in terms of not just ethnicity, but in terms of the way they speak, where they're from, how they act, the fact that one of them knows where they are and the other one doesn't. But still, it becomes, as you said, a pretty powerful love story. I mean, you always think of situations like this, your mind's going to go back to San Junipero, which maybe coincidentally she lives on Junipero Drive in this
Mhm.
episode. But yeah, it just seems like this love story that was created out of the idea of something that's supposed to be just a cut and dry technology. It works and move on. But the unintended consequences are you create a relationship that then it's a struggle to decide, do I want to get out of it or not?
Yeah, and I mean, I do feel like I want to throw this in there, right? Like, I feel like there is a relatively strong implication that the real life Dorothy Parker was gay but wasn't allowed to be,
Right.
you know.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
the fact that they made this kind of almost quirky decision to gender flip the lead because Brandy wanted to do it and so on opens up, like they keep saying, like, well, what I've never seen what's how Claire's behaving that way. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, now I mean, I don't know about the question of, I don't know, plausibility or what, um with I was willing to just accept this in watching the episode and not worry about it. But it definitely seems that Clara slash Dorothy, with as an AI within the simulated movie, um, basically, it definitely seems like she gains self-conscious awareness
Yeah.
as a person. Um, and that's tied in with why she doesn't freeze like everyone else does. But I don't know if there's a really an explanation for that. I was willing to just kind of go along. What about you?
Yeah,
Any thoughts on
they kind of try to exposit this a little bit where they talk about, oh, she put so much of her acting or drew so much of her acting as part of who she was as a person. That's where all of the emotion and her tone came from. And then my assumption was they told us that so we could see that she actually grew this AI version of herself was able to, I guess, gain some sort of sense of cognition because there was actually a piece of Dorothy in there because that's how she acted. You know, I think that's why they threw that little conversation in
it?
there.
Yeah, and the YouTube videos and stuff. So like that she managed to incorporate all of this stuff about the real life Dorothy Parker, and that
Yeah.
became the key thing. And then ultimately she kind of escapes containment, however you want to read that. You know, I don't know. I mean, for me, Black Mirror's played with ideas of quote unquote artificial intelligence or
Hmm.
copies of people's consciousnesses, or what it's played with that for years at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't even necessarily feel the need to put this in any kind of continuity with any question about currently existing, large language models or generative AI, as people call it,
Hmm.
or or like, is it plausible? Yeah, I'm not even kind of asking that question. I'm willing to just accept, oh, well, they did this, and oh, that one got self-awareness, right? That one's a
Yeah.
person now. Whoopsie. I'm willing to just kind of
I
buy
did
it.
think I put this in in our notes, just sort of talk through this idea of the explanation, which was really just a bunch of techno gobbledygook of why she could not come out of the the AI consciousness that she's in while making this movie seemed just like we need to create some reason why she stays in there forever. It didn't really. I mean, I don't know this is necessarily quote unquote plausible, but just
Right.
seemed like more of a like, well, we'll just ramble on about some of these reasons why she can, and that's why you just need to accept that and move on.
Yeah, they needed this. Would it be appropriate to call this a MacGuffin? I think this might be a
Yeah.
MacGuffin. They needed that kind of hook in there, I guess.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, because I was entertained enough. I was thinking about this as I was watching the episode. Like, if the whole thing had just been, can she get through the movie? It would have worked well enough for, like, I would have been entertained, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Um, because oops, she immediately was like, "What do you mean she can't play piano? That's a problem."
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, if it had just been that kind of story, but I really think it manages to be more than that through what you're talking about. So again, I'm just willing to accept it.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, also because like it sets off because you've got Chekhov's coffee cup.
I was
It's
gonna
like I'm
say,
just throwing more and more terms out here.
don't forget your rules about putting liquids near the computer, buddy, or what whatever she says.
Ooh, yeah, no, yeah, right. Like, exactly. Like, you have to set it up with her. It's like, don't put coffee near the computer, and then later it's like, whoops, I spilled my coffee. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. But creating those kinds of stakes where first, right, um, Brandy is caught within the film and has to get through the film in order to survive, probably,
Yeah,
right? Like they're saying. She's almost certainly going to be stuck in there and die. That'd be a
yeah.
problem. Um, but then the technical malfunction where everyone in the film freezes except for, well, Brandy and Dorothy. I mean, whatever names we should be using at that point,
Yeah.
opens up what I thought was a really kind of beautiful vignette, because they also bring in the time dilation kind of thing that Black Mirror has played with before. Time is moving way faster
Yes.
in the film, right? So when it comes down to it, they have this love that spans for months. I mean, I don't know if they tell us exactly how long, but at least
Yeah.
months.
You just see those calendar days flip by, and then the Aquafina character, I forget her name, Kimmy, tells the people she's there with that, oh, it's going to feel to her like a lot longer than it's been for us, when they finally decide to reset it. So yeah, this idea of unclear how long it's been, but enough time to develop, I mean, a deep and intimate relationship between Dorothy and Brandy.
Yeah, it reminded me to some extent of the episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, Inner Light. Are you familiar with that episode?
No.
Um, Short version is it's like Picard gets, I forget exactly what it is. They run into some alien species or whatever, and
Yeah.
it's like they trap Picard in this time bubble thing.
Okay.
I don't remember. I don't remember why it happens, right? But the long and short of it is, it's like Jean-Luc Picard lives out an entire life as if he were
uh,
a guy on this planet who gets married and has children and loves his wife and but like none of it's real,
I see.
so that
Yeah.
at the end of it, he's then back to himself or whatever. Um, so it gave me some vibes like that, but maybe attempt to say inverse, but I don't know if that quite fits. It's definitely kind of darker. Anyway, like that moment where, because the people on the outside don't know what's going on
Right.
inside, right?
Exactly.
But so they finally get things back. Right? Kimmy makes contact, and it's very quick. Where you've just had this couple talking about how they love each other,
Yeah.
and now Kimmy's like, "Okay, we're back. We're going to reset the movie." And so it really makes you think about the status of that character as Clara/Dorothy, and all the growth over those months, and the love that seems real between these two characters,
Yep.
and then gone. I mean,
Yeah.
it lands like a death for me.
Yeah. Exactly. I found it, I mean, devastating and quite emotional to have. Well, I mean, you could set up stakes where, okay, this is going to end in this movie when we finish doing this in whatever amount of time it takes to do it. But go to your point, what she hears from Kimmy. Oh, good, we've got you back. Okay, count down from 10. We're resetting this. She's not going to remember anything about it. Don't worry. To have that sort of jarring sense of I'm losing this person that I love, and then have to go back not only to do this job I'm supposed to do it with the person that I fall in love with, but have that person not reciprocate that in the way that I know that they would, because we've lost all of that. Yeah, I mean, it's just devastating.
Yeah, agreed. And that's where I really think Issa Rae's performance there as Brandy really does work in that moment, because she's affected by it. She can't just get over that
Yeah.
and proceed, but at the same time, she has to, because otherwise she's trapped in the movie forever, gonna die
Yeah.
or whatever. So she has to get to the end of the film, but then she also wants to like connect with Clara again. I just thought all of this worked very well when it
Did
came
you get
down
the
to it.
sense that she was trying to make a choice between finishing the movie and going back to her normal life, or staying there and her body would die, but her consciousness and soul, I think she says, in spirit would live on past that. So she'd get, I don't know, an infinite, eternal amount of time with Brandy. I was trying to decide if they were saying that her consciousness there inside the movie would die at the same time that her body did. I don't think they made that connection, but I wasn't quite clear on it.
I don't think it was entirely clear. I mean, I recall there's a point in there where she kind of asks the question. Um, I do feel like there's at least a feeling that maybe if she'd had the opportunity to make that decision before they reset and the Clara she'd spent months with died or
Yeah.
whatever, however you want to put that. If she'd had the ability to make the decision then, maybe she would have decided, no,
Yeah.
I'm going to stay here with the woman that I love and so on and so forth. But um they're at least playing with it, but when it comes down to it, yeah, she's on board with finishing the movie to,
Yeah.
get out of there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just, I mean, just interesting questions it leaves you with, even though it sort of has a pretty final, I mean, for a Black Mirror episode, has a pretty final ending. There's not really a sense of what's going to happen the next day. Well, the next day she's going to call Dorothy, and the same for the next day, the next day, the next day after that.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of turn a little bit in my mind, though, and we should talk about this some. I think that well, first of all, the way that the rest of the film plays out and the new version of the film that we end up with, Hotel Reverie, I
Hmm.
thought all of that worked,
Hmm.
And even though that one version of Clara had been lost, you get kind of quick movement in Clara because of how Brandy's behaving
Yeah.
or whatever, pushing her in the direction where she ends up, where she grabs the gun and shoots him and all of that. Um, but okay, then the movie's over. So, it's like, to what extent is the AI Dorothy that Brandy is talking to on the phone the same person
Yeah.
as the one she was interacting with in Hotel Reverie? She's not, right? Like, she's not
I,
even the same version of the AI.
that's the impression I got. We've now recreated a new version of AI Dorothy, but we're going to give you the ability to talk with her and develop relationship just as you did before. But you're gonna have to kind of start at the beginning because yeah, this is a new construct we had to build of this person.
Yeah, yeah. But see, then that opens up the space of,
Yeah.
like, going in the direction of what happens in an episode like Be Right Back. Remember that one?
Okay.
I don't know if you do. Do you remember that one? It was like
Yeah,
season one
early on.
episode
Yeah, yeah.
where the woman's husband dies and then they make an AI version of him.
Yes. Yes.
That didn't go well ultimately, you know what I mean? So I think even to the extent that the ending of Hotel Reverie feels like a happy ending, if we
Yes.
start imagining the future of uh, her spending time talking to this digital AI Dorothy and where that might lead, I think it could get dark again,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
What's the
overall,
guarantee you're going to get the same outcome if you spend weeks and months with this person as you did with the last? Yeah, there is none.
yeah, does this lead in the direction of Brandy using her wealth to create a robot Dorothy? Like,
Right.
maybe, tie these things together, but I don't know. Putting that aside, I do think that in a certain way, this is almost the most feel good Black Mirror episode in my mind.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad at the same time. So,
Yeah. I completely agree.
um, you've got one more point in our notes, I think. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, just something it made me think of. I think that, while obviously there's been a lot of, you know, rights and usage and what's appropriate to do and not do with AI in the Hollywood news over the past couple of years. I've not obviously seen, I think, movies or shows do anything close to what's being talked about in this episode, but it did make me think about times where directors or movies have done this, such as I think the link that I gave to is in the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where Quentin Tarantino filmed Leonardo DiCaprio as he was the Steve McQueen character in The Great Escape. And then just
Yeah.
sort of puts him in the footage of that, and so I have wondered before, are we close to, I mean, clearly there's the technology to do this, close to, put Ryan Gosling or Leonardo DiCaprio in the Humphrey Bogart role and just make them as a part of this movie. It's just sort of scene for scene what we just saw like when here in Hotel Reverie. Could that be done? I don't know. I don't know anything about the rights and if they would be interested in doing that, but the technology to do it is there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the technology is quite there though in terms of the AI versions of the
Yeah.
characters in the film.
Yeah.
I'm also it's really weird. I with this episode, thinking about my reactions and the fact that I really sort of love this episode because if we start thinking about this sort of thing, I'm opposed to it. Right?
Mm.
We start thinking about it like in the real world.
Yes.
But
Yes.
somehow with the way that this episode played out, I wasn't even really hardly thinking about having that sort of objection, you know. It didn't really seem like the primary question the episode was asking. Um, but yeah, I mean, maybe I wouldn't be fully opposed to it,
Yeah.
but I don't think that it is quite possible with existing technology now.
No.
You
No.
might think, and someone listening to this might be thinking, oh, but it will be soon or something like that. Maybe,
Yeah.
But this the the small minimal differences are important here, right?
Yeah. That's right.
At least in my mind. So,
Yeah.
could
Absolutely.
you take the footage of Casablanca and put Ryan Reynolds in there? And well, yeah, I mean, of course, at one level, this technology
Yeah.
exists and has
Yeah.
existed for a while, right? I
Right.
mean,
Right.
to like superimpose or whatever, but to be able to do something like what they do in Hotel Reverie, the Netflix, the Black Mirror episode,
Yeah.
what's distinctive about it is that you do have some relative autonomy of the characters within the movie,
Mhm.
and she's got to like play it like a game almost,
Right.
and
Right.
um because she can't play piano, then Clara doesn't behave the right way, and now there's a problem with the poison
Yeah.
drink, and
Yeah.
um yeah, so but yeah, I really did enjoy the I don't know if they had to kill the dog, but
Oh yeah, I know. Poor Bun Bun.
you know, it's always there's exists a website that gives I forget what it's called. It's called like "Does the dog die" or something.
So you can know before you watch it if you're going to see
Mhm.
a. Yeah, that makes sense. I might need that for a
There,
little kid sometime.
yeah, or I mean, like I know a couple of adults who won't watch a movie if the dog dies.
Yep. Yep.
They're just like, nope, not doing it. So if for some reason you're listening to this, you haven't watched Hotel Reverie yet, and you're one of those people, then be warned, the dog
That's
dies.
right.
And yeah, so good episode, I think.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about this one before we wrap up?
No, good. I'm glad we talked about both of these. This good sort of double feature there.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll pick up next week with Plaything, and then I think we'll give Eulogy a week, and then USS Callister 2 Electric Boogaloo will get its own episode as well. So we're going to work through this over the next few weeks. Hopefully you'll stick with us. Thanks as always for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please do leave a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate it. You can read about Black Mirror and other things on TVObscast.com. Encourage you to go to the site, poke around, and we'll be back next week talking about Plaything, which might be my favorite episode of season 7, personally.
Okay, good. I've actually have not watched this one yet, so I'm going to take care of that this weekend and looking forward to talking with you about it next time.
It's got everything. It's got Peter Capaldi. It's got Will Poulter. It's got, Bandersnatch references. But okay, we'll see you next week.
All right, see you then.